The Viridian space station, Eternal Harmony, hung against the backdrop of the Carina Nebula like an elaborate piece of alien jewelry. Its crystalline spires and organic curves represented everything humanity had yet to achieve in architecture and engineering. Or at least, that's what the Viridians wanted us to believe. Quantum systems engineer Zara Patel stood at the observation deck, her dark eyes reflecting the station's ethereal glow. 20 years of experience in deep space construction had taught her to see past the superficial beauty of any structure. The Viridian's supposedly superior technology had more holes than a solar sail after a meteor shower. Magnificent, isn't it? Ambassador Thrix's melodic voice carried the characteristic harmonic overtones of his species. The tall, silver-skinned alien's forearms performed an elaborate greeting gesture. Few humans have been granted the privilege of viewing our achievements up close. Zara maintained a carefully neutral expression. The integration of biological and mechanical systems is particularly impressive. She gestured toward a pulsing conduit. Though I notice you're using quantum fluctuation fields for artificial gravity instead of traditional rotation. A barely perceptible ripple passed through Thrix's skin, the Viridian equivalent of surprise. You have a remarkably detailed understanding of our technology for a newer species. Engineering principles tend to be universal, Zara replied, noting how the ambassador's secondary breathing vents constricted slightly. Physics doesn't play favorites. The diplomatic tour continued through the station's pristine corridors, each demonstration of Viridian superiority becoming increasingly tedious. Zara's trained eye caught countless inefficiencies and shortcuts in their systems. They hadn't developed this technology, they'd stolen it, and poorly at that. During the formal dinner, Chief Engineer Myrax cornered her with questions about human technological advancement. The younger Viridian's skin shifted through shades of blue as she spoke, betraying her agitation. Your species achieved quantum computing rather quickly. Zara sipped the ceremonial drink, ignoring its caustic taste. We're adaptable. Speaking of adaptation, have you considered updating your tertiary life supports processing algorithms? The current version seems a few generations behind. The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. Myrax's skin darkened to a deep purple. You seem to have conducted quite a thorough analysis of our systems, Engineer Patel. Professional habit. Zara's hand brushed against the modified engineering tool disguised as a ceremonial pin on her collar. Though I'm more interested in why a supposedly advanced species is running salvaged Arxian code in their primary systems. The reaction was immediate. Security drones materialized from hidden alcoves as Ambassador Thrix rose to his full height. We had such hopes for this diplomatic exchange, he said, his harmonics turning discordant. But your species' persistence in uncovering things that should remain hidden has become problematic. Zara felt the artificial gravity shift around her but was already moving. The emergency protocols she'd programmed into her ceremonial pin activated, creating a localized field disruption. Let me guess, she said, dodging a security drone's stasis field, this was never about diplomacy. Your species represents a unique threat, Thrix declared as more drones surrounded her. Your rapid advancement, your inability to accept your proper place in the galactic hierarchy, it cannot be allowed to continue. They thought they had her cornered in the secondary cargo bay. They thought their superior technology would ensure her cooperation. They thought wrong. A quick death is more than your kind deserves, Myrax announced, reaching for the airlock controls. Zara smiled. You really should have checked my service record. The explosive decompression caught them by surprise, but Zara was ready. Her ceremonial outfit transformed into a sealed emergency suit, another, primitive, human innovation the Viridians had dismissed. As the aliens scrambled to recover, she launched herself into the void of space. They didn't bother to verify her death. Typical arrogance. As she drifted in the darkness, watching the station's crystalline form rotate slowly above her, Zara accessed her suit's advanced systems, systems that were decidedly not part of the official diplomatic record. Well, she muttered to herself, beginning the complex calculations that would allow her to hack into the station's maintenance protocols. They wanted to learn about human innovation. Time for some hands-on education. The stars watched in silence as one of humanity's finest engineers prepared to teach an advanced alien civilization why underestimating humans was always a fatal mistake. The Viridians were about to learn that true innovation isn't about having the most advanced technology, it's about knowing how to use what you have. The maintenance shaft was a tight fit, but Zara had worked in worse conditions. The Viridians' obsession with aesthetic beauty meant they'd hidden their station's vital systems behind elaborate panels and false walls. Unfortunately for them, they'd copied their maintenance protocols from the Arxians, and Zara had spent 3 years studying Arxian engineering. Alert, unknown breach in Section 7 Delta, the station's AI announced in its melodious voice. Zara smirked as she rewired another junction box. The AI was detecting her alterations but couldn't identify them as threats. After all, she was using valid maintenance codes she'd extracted from her earlier, diplomatic tour. A group of security drones whirred past her hiding spot, their sensors sweeping for unauthorized life signs. They didn't detect her because, according to the station's systems, she didn't exist. The emergency protocols she'd activated during her execution had marked her as deceased, another example of the Viridians' over-reliance on automated systems. Deep in the heart of the station, Zara found what she was looking for, the quantum processing core. The massive crystalline structure pulsed with energy, its fractal patterns reflecting the advanced technology the Viridians had stolen from other species. But like everything else on this station, they understood its operation without comprehending its principles. "Beautiful system," she whispered, connecting her modified engineering tools to an access port. "Shame about the maintenance." A soft chirp behind her made her freeze. Turning slowly, she found herself face to face with a young Viridian technician. His silver skin hadn't yet developed the iridescent patterns of the adults, and his secondary breathing vents were still developing. He stared at her with 4 wide, luminescent eyes. "You're the human they tried to kill," he said, his harmonics carrying undertones of curiosity rather than fear. "I'm Junior Technician Rylix. I saw what they did to you. It wasn't right." Zara kept her tools ready but didn't move. Interesting moral stance for a Viridian. "We're not all like them." Rylix's skin rippled with patterns of distress. "Some of us question the hierarchy's decisions. Their fear of other species, their theft of technology, it goes against everything our ancestors believed." "Prove it," Zara challenged, gesturing to her exposed work on the quantum core. "You know what I'm doing here. You could alert security with a single thought." Instead, Rylix moved closer, examining her modifications. "You're not destroying the systems," he observed. "You're rewriting them. But that's impossible. The quantum matrices are locked." "Impossible for someone who only knows how to use the technology," Zara corrected. "Not for someone who understands how it works. Your leaders copied Arxian quantum systems but never learned the base principles. They don't know about the maintenance backdoors built into every quantum core." Rylix's skin shifted to a deep blue of revelation. "That's why you were asking those questions during the tour. You were mapping the systems. Smart kid." Zara turned back to her work. "So, what's it going to be? Are you going to alert security?" The young Viridian was quiet for a moment, his breathing vents pulsing with internal conflict. Finally, he spoke. "What are you planning to do?" "Give your leaders an education in humility," Zara replied, her fingers dancing across the quantum interface. "Nothing lethal, I'm an engineer, not a murderer. But by the time I'm done, this station won't be quite the symbol of Viridian superiority they want it to be." To her surprise, Rylix moved beside her and opened an access panel she hadn't noticed. "The secondary quantum buffer is through here," he said. If you're going to rewrite the core protocols, you'll need to bypass it first. Zara raised an eyebrow. You're helping me? Why? Because you're proving what some of us have been trying to tell the hierarchy for years. Rylex's skin patterns shifted into complex geometries of determination. Real advancement comes from understanding, not possession. Maybe after this, they'll finally listen. Together, Human and Viridian began the delicate process of reprogramming the station's quantum core. Above them, in the luxurious upper levels, the hierarchy continued their celebrations, unaware that their perfect symbol of superiority was being transformed from within. By the way, Zara said as they worked, that caustic ceremonial drink of yours? It's just fermented mineral supplements. Your leaders have been making visitors drink maintenance solutions as some kind of joke. Rylex's skin flushed with embarrassment. That explains a lot actually. What else have they been wrong about? Stick around, kid, Zara grinned as she initiated the first phase of her program. You're about to find out. Now, let me show you how these systems really work. Warning lights began flashing across the quantum core's display, but to the station's AI, everything appeared normal. The ghost in the machine was about to become very real indeed, and the Viridian hierarchy was about to learn why humans had survived every catastrophe their own world had thrown at them. They never, ever gave up. The first sign that something was wrong came during the hierarchy's celebratory feast. Ambassador Thrix was mid-speech, extolling the virtues of Viridian superiority, when the artificial gravity in the grand hall began to fluctuate. Not enough to cause panic, just enough to make several dignified Viridian officials stumble over their own feet. Deep in the station's maintenance levels, Zara watched through the security feeds, her modified tools connected to the quantum core. Gravity fluctuation test successful, she noted. Beside her, Rylex monitored the system responses. They're blaming it on power distribution issues, the young Viridian reported, his skin flickering with suppressed amusement. Engineering teams are being dispatched to check the gravitational field generators. They won't find anything wrong there, Zara said, initiating the next phase of her plan. Because there isn't anything wrong with the generators. The quantum core is just reinterpreting their commands, creatively. Throughout the station, subtle malfunctions began to multiply. Temperature controls developed minds of their own, creating random hot and cold spots. Communication systems worked perfectly, except when delivering messages from hierarchy officials. The grand atmospheric gardens, pride of the station, began producing earth flowers instead of Viridian blooms. Warning, the station's AI announced in its usual melodious tone, environmental anomalies detected in multiple sectors. Recalibration in progress. But no amount of recalibration could fix what Zara had done to the core programming. Chief Engineer Myrax's skin had shifted to a deep purple of rage as she stormed through the station's corridors. How is this possible? She demanded of her technical staff. These systems are perfect. They cannot malfunction. That's exactly the problem, Rylex whispered as they watched. They never considered that perfect systems could be perfectly reprogrammed. Zara nodded, her fingers dancing across the quantum interface. Time for Phase 3. Ready to see some real engineering, kid? The station's holographic displays came to life simultaneously, but instead of showing the usual Viridian status reports, they began displaying Earth's technological history. Stone tools giving way to bronze and iron. Steam engines evolving into internal combustion. Primitive aircraft developing into space shuttles. What is this? Ambassador Thrix demanded, his harmonics sharp with anxiety as he watched humanity's progression unfold before him. This, Zara's voice echoed through the station's communication system, is what real advancement looks like. Not stealing and copying, but learning and understanding. Every failure taught us something. Every setback made us stronger. Security teams rushed through the station, trying to track the source of the transmission. But Zara had learned more about the station's systems in a few hours than its owners had in years. Her signal bounced between quantum nodes, impossible to trace. "You think technology makes you superior," she continued. "Technology is just a tool. Understanding is what matters. And right now, your perfect station is running on my understanding, not yours." To demonstrate her point, she triggered the environmental controls in the main council chamber. The temperature dropped just enough to make the Viridians uncomfortable, their silver skin dulling in the cold. "Impossible." Myrax's voice cracked with harmonics of fear. "These are Arxian systems. Human technology cannot interface with them." "Actually," Rylak spoke up, patching into the communication system, "human technology isn't interfacing with them at all. She reprogrammed them from the inside, using your own maintenance protocols. Protocols you never bothered to study." The station shuddered as Zara initiated her master stroke. Every quantum buffer simultaneously engaged, creating a cascade of energy that flowed through the station's systems. Lights flickered, gravity wavered, and for a moment, the entire station seemed to hold its breath. "Full system restart required," the AI announced pleasantly. "Please stand by for reconfiguration." When the systems came back online, nothing looked different, but everything had changed. The quantum core now ran on human programming protocols, integrated with the original Arxian architecture in ways the Viridians had never imagined possible. "Who's in control of my station?" Ambassador Thrix demanded, his skin nearly white with rage. "Your station?" Zara's laugh echoed through the corridors. "This station belongs to whoever understands it best. Right now, that's not you." Warning lights began flashing throughout the command center as system after system reported anomalies. But there was nothing physically wrong with any of them, they were simply operating on a new set of rules, rules written by a human engineer who understood that the most elegant solution isn't always the most obvious one. "You have 1 hour," Zara announced to the increasingly panicked hierarchy. 1 hour to consider humanity's real place in your galactic order. After that, I start demonstrating what this station can really do when its technology is properly understood." She turned to Rylak, whose skin was shimmering with patterns of amazement. "And now, we wait." "They won't take this well," the young Viridian warned. "They don't have to take it well," Zara replied, watching the chaos unfold on their monitors. "They just have to take it seriously. Sometimes the best way to teach a lesson is to turn someone's own assumptions against them." The station hung in space, its crystalline spires still gleaming beautifully. But now it was more than just a symbol of Viridian superiority, it had become a testament to human ingenuity, and a reminder that true power lies not in possessing advanced technology, but in understanding how to use it. The hour passed like a dying star, slowly at first, then with explosive consequences. Ambassador Thrix had gathered the entire hierarchy in the Grand Council chamber, their silver skin reflecting the emergency lights that pulsed throughout the station. None of them had tried to leave. Pride, Zara noted, was a universal constant. "Your ultimatum has expired, human," Thrix announced, his harmonics razor-sharp. "You have made your point. Now restore our systems." "Your systems?" Zara's voice echoed through the chamber. "I don't see your signature in any of the code. In fact, I don't see any Viridian signatures at all. Just stolen Arxian protocols and copied Centaurian interfaces." She nodded to Rylak, who initiated the next phase of their plan. The chamber's holographic displays sparked to life, showing detailed schematics of the station's systems, complete with their original source markers. "Interesting reading," Zara continued. "Especially the parts about how your species acquired this technology. The Arxians weren't sharing willingly, were they? Neither were the Centaurians. Or the dozen other species I've identified in your systems." Chief Engineer Myrax surged to her feet, skin flashing danger patterns. "You dare accuse us? Your primitive species barely understands quantum mechanics. Understanding isn't about time, Rylak spoke up, his young voice carrying surprising authority. It's about observation, adaptation, and respect for fundamental principles. Things our people have forgotten in their rush to appear superior. The chamber erupted in chaos as junior members of the hierarchy recognized Rylak's voice. Thrix's secondary breathing vents constricted with rage. Traitor! You collaborate with this human? I collaborate with progress, Rylak replied. Real progress, not theft disguised as superiority. Zara triggered the next stage of her modifications. Throughout the station, every system began displaying its true origin, each stolen protocol, each copied design highlighted and traced back to its source. The hierarchy's carefully maintained illusion of technological supremacy unraveled before their eyes. Fascinating, she commented as the data streamed across the displays. You've stolen from so many species, you don't even have maintenance protocols of your own anymore. You can't fix what you don't understand. Enough! Thrix roared. Security protocols, override code Alpha 7-. About those security protocols, Zara interrupted. They were actually quite impressive. Arxian quantum encryption, Centaurian neural interfaces, even some interesting Procyon biolocks. But they all shared one critical flaw: they were designed to work together. With a few commands, she demonstrated her point. Security drones activated, but instead of responding to Viridian commands, they began methodically scanning and documenting every piece of stolen technology in the station. You see, she explained, when you understand how systems work, not just how to use them, you can make them work together in ways their original designers never imagined. Or in this case, make them stop working together in exactly the wrong way. The station shuddered as primary systems began shutting down, one by one. Not enough to endanger lives, Zara was an engineer, not an executioner, but enough to make her point brutally clear. What do you want? Myrax demanded, her harmonics trembling. Resources? Technology? I want you to learn, Zara replied simply. Everything I've done to your station, I did with systems you already had. I didn't bring in any human technology. I just understood your stolen systems better than you did. She nodded to Rylak, who activated the final phase of their plan. The quantum core hummed as it reconfigured itself, integrating all its disparate technologies into a new, unified system. Here's what happens next, Zara announced. First, you're going to acknowledge humanity as equals in the galactic community. Not because we're technologically advanced, but because we understand something you've forgotten: true progress comes from innovation, not imitation. The station systems began coming back online, but differently now. The stolen technologies remained, but they operated with new efficiency, working together in ways their original designers hadn't conceived. Second, she continued, you're going to return what you've stolen. All of it. And you're going to learn how to develop your own technology again. And if we refuse? Thrix challenged, though his skin had paled to a sickly gray. Then I release the complete documentation of your technological theft to every species in the galaxy, Zara replied calmly. Including the ones you stole from. I wonder how the Arxians would react to proof that you orchestrated the accident that destroyed their quantum research facility. The silence in the chamber was absolute. Even the station's ever-present hum seemed muted, as if the quantum core itself was holding its breath. You would destroy decades of galactic stability, Myrax whispered. Wars could start. No, Rylak interjected. We would be forcing our people to face their mistakes and grow from them. Like humans did. Like we used to do. Zara watched through the security feeds as the hierarchy members looked at each other, their skin patterns shifting through complex emotions. They were proud, yes, but they weren't stupid. They could see the writing on the wall, or more accurately, in their own systems. Time to decide, she announced. What's it going to be? Evolution or exposure? The future of human-Viridian relations hung in the balance, poised between pride and pragmatism. And in the depths of the station, a human engineer waited to see if an advanced alien civilization could learn the most basic of human traits, the ability to admit when you're wrong and learn from it. 3 days later, Zara stood at the same observation window where her adventure had begun. The station's crystalline spires still gleamed in the light of the Carina Nebula, but now they seemed different, more honest, somehow. Like the structure itself had shed a deceptive facade. The last of the documentation has been transmitted, Rylix reported, joining her at the window. His skin patterns rippled with exhaustion but also satisfaction. The Arxians have already responded. They're surprisingly understanding. Scientists usually are, Zara replied, watching a shuttle depart carrying members of the former hierarchy to face charges from various species they'd stolen from. They care more about advancing knowledge than maintaining power. Something your new leadership seems to finally understand. The young Viridian's promotion to acting chief engineer had raised quite a few breathing vents, but no one could deny his qualifications, especially after he'd helped implement Zara's fixes to the station's systems. We've already begun development of our own quantum interface protocols, he said, his harmonics bright with excitement. Actually understanding how the technology works, creating something new instead of just copying, it's exhilarating. That's the thing about real innovation, Zara smiled. It's addictive. Once you start creating instead of copying, it's hard to stop. The station's systems hummed with new efficiency. The integration of various stolen technologies, now properly understood and legally licensed from their original creators, had resulted in something entirely new. Not Viridian technology, not human technology, but a true synthesis. The diplomatic corps has arrived, the station's AI announced, its voice carrying subtle new harmonics, another innovation born from genuine collaboration. A sleek human vessel docked alongside ships from a dozen other species, all arriving to witness the historic moment. Nervous? Zara asked, noting Rylix's skin shifting through anxiety patterns. Terrified, he admitted. We're about to change everything. The Viridian Alliance has always defined itself by its technological superiority. Learning to be equal, it won't be easy. Growth never is, she replied, straightening her formal uniform. But you're not alone. Humanity learned that lesson a long time ago. Real strength comes from collaboration, not competition. They made their way to the Grand Council chamber, now repurposed as a conference hall. Representatives from every species the Viridians had stolen from were present, along with human diplomats and the new Viridian leadership. Engineer Patel, the Arxian representative, greeted her, their crystalline form shimmering with respect. Your solution to this situation was elegantly human. I'll take that as a compliment, Zara replied with a slight bow. As intended, the Arxian hummed. Converting a potential interstellar conflict into an opportunity for mutual growth? Only your species would think to solve technological theft by teaching the thieves to be inventors. The ceremony that followed was surprisingly informal. Species after species came forward, not to demand retribution, but to offer collaboration. The Viridian stolen technology was officially licensed, their debts would be paid through shared research and development, and most importantly, they would learn to create their own innovations. This station will serve as a symbol, Rylix announced to the assembled delegates, his skin glowing with purpose. Not of superiority, but of transformation. A place where species come together to share knowledge, develop new technologies, and learn from each other. The eternal harmony, Zara mused, finally living up to its name. Later, as the diplomatic festivities wound down, Zara found herself back at the observation window. A message from Earth Command blinked for her attention, her next assignment, if she chose to accept it. They want me to stay, she told Rylix as he joined her. As humanity's representative to the new Galactic Engineering Exchange. Will you? The young Viridian asked, trying to hide his hope. Zara looked out at the stars, remembering the moment she'd floated in space, supposedly defeated but actually on the verge of her greatest triumph. "Well," she said with a grin, "someone has to teach you people the difference between using technology and understanding it. And someone has to teach humans that not everything needs to be fixed," Rylix countered, his skin patterns showing amusement. "Fair point," she laughed. "Though you have to admit, my fixes worked out pretty well." The station continued its orbit, its systems now running on genuine innovation rather than stolen shortcuts. In the labs below, Viridian scientists worked alongside researchers from a dozen species, learning not just how to use technology, but how to create it. And in a quiet corner of the quantum core, a small plaque had been installed. It read simply, "Understanding is the greatest innovation of all." The stars watched as the station that had once been a monument to stolen glory transformed into something far more valuable, a testament to the power of human ingenuity and the universal truth that real progress comes not from claiming superiority, but from admitting when you need to learn. Zara Patel, the engineer who had brought an empire to its knees armed with nothing but understanding, smiled as she drafted her acceptance message to Earth Command. Sometimes the best way to win wasn't through force or even cunning, but through teaching your enemies to be better than they were. After all, that was the most human trait of all.